was younger, there weren't maybe 3 or 4 cars in a day. Last summer, I sat on my front stoop and count 300 cars per hour going by.
It seems like in a matter of months, although it was probably more like a year, a farm field was converted over to a half a dozen huge McMansions.
You don't get the perspective from the ground you get from the air. You get up in the morning and there's such a beautiful, beautiful sunrises with the clouds up there and stuff and the inlets and water and peaceful. And it's changed.
The beach that I grew up on in the summers when I was a little kid is gone. And that was not a natural phenomenon, that was a human-caused phenomenon.
I was born September 2nd, 1912, Labor Day, right up there in that farmhouse. Since 1930, I have taken weather every day and night, twice a day. We have never missed a recording.
I first started exhibiting the Vanishing Landscape series in 1991. The idea behind there is to really document the landscape before it becomes converted, to total suburbia.
I've done a lot of what I would call environmental photography. When you look at things from the air, particularly, you get a sense of the fragility of this area. I began to see things disappear in ways that were really disturbing.
I can fly around and look at different areas and say, yeah, I used to spray that potato field there, or the cabbage and cauliflower, You go down and it's, oh, that was woods, that's woods, and all of a sudden, it's no wood, there's houses all through it,
We have the richest soils in America right here on the East End. And to think that they are now grazing suburban lawns is something that I think is a loss to all of us.
Most dramatic changes that I've seen is the conversion of open land to developed land. We've lost thousands of acres of farmland and open space and natural habitats. We have lost areas that have been essentially undeveloped for hundreds of years, and now they're going to be developed forever. The roadways have gotten congested. We produce something like 50 million vehicle trips a year that weren't here 10 years ago. Those cars coming and going, construction vehicles coming and going. We produce close to 75 million pounds of garbage just for the last 10 to 15 years of development every single year. We have many more people out here that have come from an area which is not like this. They've come from a more urbanized area, so they're used to turning on the water and knowing that there's a public water system somewhere, and flushing a toilet and knowing that there's a sewer plant somewhere. The infrastructure that we have is what you see around you. It's the ability for this natural environment to absorb the impacts of human habitation. That's what we have. At the Group for the East End, the main thing that we try to do is to protect the natural resources that are here. We try to restore the natural resources that have been degraded. And we try to do those things through the filter of education, public advocacy, and civic action.
One of the things I liked about Bob and the Group for the East End is that they sort of think out of the box. They might say, well, wait a minute, you're talking about, building a development with 60 houses. Not saying don't build it at all, but saying, what if you did it this way? Let's think a little bit more. Let's plan better.
The Group for the East End is vitally involved in helping the community to think about its future, provide a vision for that future, and lay out a different kind of land use map. So when an organization like Group for the East End comes into a community, it's an affirmation that the work is important, that the people who live there are valued.
The reason that I keep working to do what I do is to make sure that we don't have the area that I'm looking at right now in my community.
We're like an ecosystem here on the East End. We've got the building blocks that are the natural resources, and then we have the interactions between the natural world and the interactions between the people that live here. And if we get it right, there can be a harmony between those forces that doesn't always have to be one pitted against the other.
Now we're going to head over to the first ecosystem we want to visit, which is the salt marsh.
One of the things that I do admire about the group and like to see is How many children are getting involved? We have red oak, and what's the other one?
This is garlic mustard, okay? And it's actually creating a bit of a problem.
You need to hold your hand out perfectly straight.
The group I know does a lot of educational outreach. I really think that they're going to look at this area in a better way than my generation did.
And probably one of the more important things is simply getting my students more involved so that they see themselves as parts of that process of change. I want students to see themselves as agents of change.
We want to develop the right environmental habits, and what the group has done for the past 37 years is to hire a professional staff of trained advocates and trained educators and policy specialists and attorneys and whatever is required to meet the challenges that we face, and those challenges change.
If I was to walk out my door one day and the trees were gone,
I would feel bad.
the waters were polluted, the fish were gone.
I would be really sad because then there would be no place to play. I would feel really bad because, like, if the trees give you oxygen and the animals make you feel good. If we don't have any plants, everyone in the whole world could die. I would run inside and tell my mom, and then I would be upset for, say, the rest of the year.
I would be devastated by that loss. What kind of future would I be leaving to my children?
So if people cut down all these trees, we won't be able to breathe and we'll be dead. Your turn, Caleb. Same thing with me.
Nobody asked to be born at this moment in time of profound change in our world. But we're here. We're experiencing this now. And the future generations, our great-great-grandchildren, are going to be profoundly thankful or mournful about the actions that we take over the next 20 years.
We have some choices. We're really at a crossroads.
Well, there are a couple of different ways that the future can go in this place.
We can have a place like this, where you've got wall-to-wall sprawl.
Landscapes can be ruined.
There would be no farming. Farming would essentially disappear on the East End.
You must realize that it is an island. It is a narrow piece of land.
If we keep the status quo, that means we're going to continue to degrade local water supplies, the local bays and estuaries.
2 miles to the ocean, 3 miles to the bay. And if we want to pollute it all, then you won't have what you came for.
We really have to consider that we are only stewards of this landscape for a very short time.
What are we, a bunch of pigs and just looking out for ourselves?
So we have a choice today to follow a different path.
I think there has to be an adjustment in our thinking.
To try to get the area to grow in a way that, makes best sense for this generation and many generations to come.
It's a fight.
Group for the East End is really like an insurance policy.
People often ask, what are the things that I can do? How can I get involved? And what difference can I make?
And many hands make for light work.
If we have plain common sense and look ahead.
Be smart.
Help get an environmental consciousness out into the community.
But one of the things that is important is that you participate and you become active in the decisions that shape the future of your community. And one of the ways to do that is to support Group for the East End, because we are here as the voice for those things that can't speak for themselves, and we are here to represent the constituency of people who care about this place and can't be at every zoning board meeting and can't be at every planning board meeting. The success stories out here are countless, and every one of those success stories involves this deep connection between people and education and community action. And that's what the group is all about.